Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another video of Salesforce Makes Sense. This is Himanshu and we are continuing our Lightning Web Components masterclass. Before jumping into actually writing code in LWC, we wanted to learn a bit of JavaScript. We talked about a good chunk of concepts, and now we want to talk about this keyword, right? Now this keyword is one of the most important yet confusing concepts in JavaScript, right? Now, before jumping into understanding this and how it works, let's take a look at this orange section down below to think about the analogy. And what I want you guys to do is, after you understand this analogy, I want you guys to put a comment and tell me what is your analogy of this keyword. Okay, maybe one example. So imagine you are a teacher in a classroom and you are a customer at a coffee shop. Is that possible? Yes, it is possible. So the word I changes depending on where you are, right? You could be a bachelor at home, right? But you could be a traveler going, solo. You could be a professional, IT professional, but you could be a father. So the context, or basically who you are, depends on where you are, right? And who you are depends on kind of the area or the scope where you are in, right? You'll behave as a father at some place, you'll behave as a kid at some place, you'll behave as a traveler at some place, but you'll behave as a professional at some place. So you play multiple roles, right? But if I had to address you, or you had to address who are you, you'd use this keyword called I, right? This I is nothing but this keyword in JavaScript. I think that's as simple as it gets. Based on the place where you are, based on the place where a variable is, or a function is, or a value is, this keyword defines which is the context, what is the current context of that value. Make sense? All right, so this keyword refers to the current context in which your code is running. So the current context is in which your code is running is used for basically understanding that this is this keyword. All right, the value of this depends on how and where it is used. We'll see how it looks like, but yeah, that's the basic idea. All right, great. So this is actually nothing but a reference to an object that is executing the current piece of code. Okay, so you could say this is my watch, this is my phone, right? You use this keyword called this, right? Similarly, this variable's value is going to be XYZ. How does JavaScript understand what do I need to consider? And that's where context comes into picture. And this essentially is nothing but an object reference. It's an object reference. Okay, and it depends basically wherever it is called and how it is called, it gives you the value. It gives you the end result. Right? So if I were to go back to my browser here, and let's say I just go ahead and say inspect, right? I have the console available here. Let me get rid of, okay, this is already gotten rid of. Let's clear this out. What I want to do is I want to simply type this. And as soon as I type this, the browser console gives me a result, which is fascinating. So what is the meaning of this keyword here? It means it is the entire window, the window of the console. And you have access to pretty much everything that's there. All right, so this keyword is basically in the current context of the browser is this window right here, okay, and then you can access attributes within it, and these are all the attributes and probably methods. Okay, so this is the window, and if I were to, let's see, if I just say I'm just going to give it a try, I'm not sure if it would work. So if you see, if I say this.document, it gives me a result, and it says that the document is this particular page, which is this particular URL, and it contains this particular HTML. This is the entire source of the browser value that is opened. Right? So this is a very powerful keyword. And when I say this is a very powerful keyword, I mean this keyword. Okay. So right now in this particular scope, in this particular context, this keyword refers to the window, but the reference or the context of this will change. What if I use it in my LWC code? What if I use it in JavaScript? The nature of this keyword will change based on where it is present. Similar to the example I gave. You can be a father, you can be a kid, you can be a traveler, but you are yourself, right? At the end, it's just one person behaving as three different people, right? Based on the area you are in, based on the context that you are in. All right, so let's close this off. Let's go back to our keynote. So in a constructor function, this refers to the newly created object. So if you have used Apex, right, and you use constructors there, right, that's one example that I just wanted to give. If you are using a constructor there, you use the this keyword to explain the system that the variable that I'm wanting to assign to is the variable of my current object that is newly created, right? So if I were to show you this in JavaScript, let's go ahead and try it out. So I'm just going to get rid of all of this, and I'm going to say, let's create a function, right? And I'm going to say personality again, and this what happened? Personality, and I'm going to give this personality a specific name and age, right? So if I were to call this personality, right? So let my personality be new personality. I'm just trying to create an instance, basically similar to how we do it in Apex. I'm going to say new personality, right? But what do I need to pass here? I need to pass my name and my age, correct? Now when I do that and I try to run and try to log this console.log my personality, let's see what it prints out first of all. Okay, this age has to be a number. I'll just say 30. Let's say run. So you see, personality is created, but even though the values are provided, it goes to the function here and it tries to create an instance, but it does not have anything inside it. Why? Because I've not assigned the personality anything. And that's where you say that this dot name for this particular created object, this particular object, the name that is coming from the function should be assigned to the personality. So this dot name refers to the name of the personality, and this name refers to the value that is coming from here. Make sense? Similarly, that the age that is coming here to the constructor should be assigned to this dot age, meaning the age of the personality, the name of the personality. And now that you try to do a debug log or a console log, you see that the name attribute of this particular object has been assigned. Why? You use the this keyword to tell the system that the name and the age that are coming are for this particular key and this particular key for this particular object. Okay, and that's how your personality is getting curated. All right, this might be a bit confusing, but it will get better with time. All right, so similarly in the event handler function, so we have written some events, right? That this refers to the element that triggered the action. Okay, so whenever you'll be using event handlers, you'll be using the this keyword to actually check whether from where has the event been triggered. All right, let's go back to the browser here, and I'm going to say let submit button. Should I try okay, it's okay. Okay, let's try maybe JS Fiddle because it has HTML also, right? Let's try that out. Let's see if we can do a button there. All right, so I'm going to say let button is equal to document dot query selector, or I can do a get element by ID, and I'm going to say find me the button in the screen. All right, and to add a button here, I'm just going to say button submit. All right, that's button submit. Let's go ahead and say run. So I have a button here, and if I try to say console.log run, so you see a button has been created on the HTML, and I have just queried it from the document object, and document object is nothing but this document right here. Okay, now document.query selector button, so it is trying to find, is there any button tag available? Yes, it is available. So it's giving me the entire information about that button. All right, that's so far so good, nothing fancy, right? And I've just console logged it, but I want to add a event listener to it. I'll just say button.add event listener. This is not something that we'll do exactly on the LWC side, but just to make you understand that this keyword, we are going to add a event listener. I'm going to say I want to handle or track the click event. Okay, I say I want to track the click event, and I want to say that when the click event is clicked, the button is clicked, I want this function to be executed, right? And that's the syntax of a function, right? Now what will I do here? I'll simply say console.log, and let me just see if I can say this as the console log. What I want to say the system is, I want to say as soon as the button is clicked, I want this event listener to listen to this event that a click has happened, and I want to run this function. Inside this function, I want to simply log the value of this Let's see what the value of this comes out to be. Okay, I'll say run. Okay, let's now I'll go ahead and say clear console and I'll say submit. So you see, as soon as I say submit, the button log is again consoled. Why? Because this keyword right here refers to the button that has been clicked. Make sense? You see how this keyword behaves differently. If I say inspect here and I say this right here, this is the window. But if I use the same this keyword here in my JavaScript, that's basically the button. So you see how this keyword varies based on the context which it is in, and that's the whole advantage. All right, what you'll do is in your code, what you'll do is you'll create function 1. Okay, and you will say console.log checking this keyword being called, right? And you'll have another function that is function 2, and you'll say checking this keyword being called from second function. Okay, and then you will say this dot function 1. Essentially this is what you'll do in LWC. So if you say run here, I'm not sure how will this look in the, okay, I have to call this function right from here. So let me just go ahead and say clear console, and I'm going to say call func1. Let's say this dot func1. I'll just have to see if it works in the console also. I'll say run. So you see, as soon as I say this dot func1, it calls this function and it says checking this keyword being called, and it is printed on the console. You see how it is able to understand that I need to call this particular function. So this dot func, meaning if there's any other function with the same name in another file, it will not refer that, it will refer the current function file from here, right? And if I say this dot func2, you see I'm getting both the logs now. So the first log comes from calling this function, and then this function internally calls function 1 by saying this dot func1. This is pretty much an important thing that you'll be doing in LWC. You'll be using this keyword to refer different functions. If you have to call another function from the current function, you have to use the this keyword. If you have to assign a value to a specific variable, you will use the this keyword. How is this relevant in LWC? This keyword allows you to reference component properties and methods. So let's say you have 5 methods, right? And from method 1, you need to call method 4. You cannot directly just write method 4 bracket open bracket close. You have to say this dot method 4. Okay. Similarly for properties also, meaning variables. Okay. That's how you will handle context in the event handlers. The one that I just showed by adding a document.query selector. Okay, so this kind of refers to the current space, and you will use this at a lot of places. So if you see a normal LWC JavaScript file, you will see probably 30-40 times this keyword is being used, because you have to use it a lot, right? And the last thing is, it can be tricky and confusing sometimes because you might miss this out, meaning you might forget to write this somewhere. You will simply say func2 and you will go and try to execute it, and it is failing, and you don't know any idea why it's failing, because JavaScript will not let you will not give you the exact information of what the error is. And then you have to debug and find, oh, okay, this function is not getting called because I have not referred it correctly. So the compiler or the executor is not able to find it. I have to say this dot func2, and then it will run. Okay. So debugging this issue might take some time. That's why it's very important that you try to, incorporate this keyword everywhere, because it's shorthand and it can be easily missed. But if you are cautious, it is a good practice to have. I mean, you'll not have to face issues or debug a lot if you are comfortable. Okay, now let's talk about a sample question and let's see how steps tracker can be created. Okay, so let's say you are someone who is logging their day-to-day steps. Let's go back to our JavaScript compiler, and I'll just go ahead and say console.log. What happened? This is my steps tracker application. Okay, I'm just going to decorate it a bit. Console.log. all right, I'll just go ahead and say run. Now my use case is basically I want to actually track my steps, right? Every day I want to track my steps, right? So what do? I kind of create a variable, my steps tracker, right? And let's say I want to define it as an object. Now my object will contain some information about my steps tracker, right? So my first information would be steps. I'll assign it to 0, correct? And that's my basic steps tracker object. I've just created a variable inside, property inside it, and I want to actually just start tracking my steps. So I'm going to say, show me the value of my steps tracker. So currently the steps are 0. I'll just go ahead and say dot steps so that I can just see the number directly. So far so good, nothing fancy, nothing complicated. Now I want a way to actually log my steps. So I have to use a function, correct? I cannot be logging every time. I'll use a function. So I can define a function inside my object. Okay. I'll say log steps. This is my function. And it takes a parameter. What is the parameter it will take? It will take the number of steps that you have done today, correct? So number of step count, or let's say just the number of steps, right? This is my function. What should this function do? It should actually add number of steps done today to this variable right here. Now when I say this variable, you have to actually say this dot steps is equal to number of steps. All right, I'll just keep it like this for now. We'll improve it. Okay, so number of steps should be assigned to the this dot steps variable, which means when I say this dot steps, it will understand now, okay, the steps mentioned inside my object right here. So if I say run now, it's okay, it gives me an error. What is that? It gives an error, unexpected identifier, log steps. But I can do a function, right? I think I have to create it as a key. So if I were to say log steps is equal to as a function, okay, I think I have to use this particular syntax, right? Because this is a key value pair inside the object, right? So I have to ensure that this is key and this is the value. So the value is nothing but a function. Okay, let's see if this works fine. Yeah, okay, this works fine. And now I have a variable that gives me the number of steps that I have, and I have a method through which I can keep on incrementing the steps that I'm doing, right? How do I now increment my steps? I'll simply say my steps tracker dot, the t has to be small or else it will fail, dot log steps. And I'm going to say I have done 5,000 steps, or let's say 50,000, whatever. Right? After I log those steps, let's run the value and see what does it show. It shows that the steps value inside my object is actually 5,000. Right? If I were to let's say log another set of steps, and I think this is where my problem might come, but let's say 10,000. So this should now be 15,000. So I'll say run. So it is 10,000. Why? Because I'm directly assigning the value here. I'm not incrementing it. So this should basically be this dot step is equal to the current steps that I have plus the number of steps that I'm doing now. And that's 15,000 now, correct? Instead of writing this entire thing, there is a short code. I think most of you already know. You can simply say plus equal to. So it will basically understand whatever is the value, add this value to it, and then give the final result. So this is now 15,000. And you see how this keyword is able to tell the system that you need to increment the steps variable that's here. Now let me show you why is it important. So I'll say let steps is equal to 0. Now I have two variables. One is steps outside as a normal variable, and one is steps inside the object variable. If I say run here, you see, I see the value 15,000 here, right? And at the same time, if I try to console the steps variable outside, which is not inside the object, it will still be 0. That's not the steps that we are modifying. Make sense? All right. And what if I were to replace this with the steps value? Let's say run. Now, if you notice, the value inside the object has been emptied and it is considering the steps that is outside. So it's not able to understand that the current context that I am in, I have to refer that particular steps. It's actually referring the steps which is outside, which is this particular steps right here. And that's the gamble with JavaScript. And that's why it is important that you use this keyword in a right way and you actually get the right fields, properties and methods to be executed and get the updated value. Make sense? All right, so I hope I was able to explain you the importance and kind of the relevance of this keyword. Again, don't worry, don't overthink it. It is basically a concept, and we'll actually extensively use all of these concepts that we are discussing in LWC proper use cases. Okay, so even if you are getting like 60-70% of it today, even that's great. All right, awesome. I think that's all I wanted to cover as part of this particular tutorial. In the next one, we'll talk about error handling, and that's the last bit for JavaScript, and then we move on to LWC. So for those of you who are excited, put a comment that excited and geared up for LWC. Thank you for the SJS tutorials. By the way, I'm recording this on 9th March 4:56. I was watching the India-New Zealand final, so it's halftime now, so I've just recorded this and now I'll go back to watch the match. All right, I hope India wins. Awesome. That's all for this particular video. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.